So, Vikram, the whole drama started when you retweeted a document taken out from the National Archives online version, which showed that rupees 100 was being sanctioned per month for Gandhiji during his imprisonment. तो इसके साथ इमीडिएटली इसका रिपरकशन रिएक्शन जो शुरू हुआ, द लिंक वाज टेकन बैक टू अगेन टू सवरकर, एज इफ जो कुछ भी हो, किसी के बारे में कुछ भी बोलो, उसको घुमा के सवरकर के पास ले जाना है. तो बिफोर वी गो इनटू द as this sanction of 100 rupees for Gandhi ji and other leaders, we will come to those details. बट बिफोर दैट, ये जो राहुल गांधी ने जो प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस में बोला, और उनके साथ साथ बीजे यात्रा से निकले हुए जो इतिहासकार हैं, वो भी बोलने लगे कि सावरकर को पैसा मिलता था. सावरकर वाज एक्चुअली अ पेड ब्रिटिश एजेंट, उनको स्टाइपेंड मिलता था ब्रिटिश से. तो आई मीन, लेट अस एड्रेस द इशू डायरेक्टली. ओवर टू यू. आपको क्या कहना है इसके बारे में, क्या बोलना है?
Yeah. Thank you, Chandrachur, and great to be with you and Anuj as always. I remember last time हमारी गपशप it went on almost till 12 in the night, and I think काफी लोग जुड़े थे तब तक. तो this incident was quite quite surprising for me, because there was no insinuation in what I shared. It was just, and that was not one page. Actually, many people just read that one page. अगर उन्होंने वो लिंक खोल के देखा होता तो वो 60 पन्नों का एक बड़ा फाइल था नेशनल आर्काइव्स का, जिसमें पूरा the letter correspondences are there as to what is going on between the government of Bombay और government of India. और उसमें पहले तो लिखा गया, सब लोग पहले तो बोल रहे थे कि ये अलाउंस जो है गांधी जी को जाता ही नहीं है. इट्स नॉट अ पर्सनल अलाउंस टू हिम, इट्स जस्ट अ क्वेश्चन ऑफ डेबिट एंड क्रेडिट बिटवीन द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ बॉम्बे एंड द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया फॉर मेंटेनेंस पर्पसेस. तो पहले तो ये बोला गया, you read properly, you need to learn English, वो सारी चीजें, the usual ad hominem attacks that go on, that went on. Then somebody pulled out some letter which Gandhiji had written in May 1930 to Major Doyle or somebody, and where he's supposed to be saying, I am refusing this money, which is not true. I'll elaborate on that. So if the money is not allocated to him, why is he refusing it? And what power does Gandhiji have to refuse a debit and credit between government of India and government of Bombay? अगर इतना पावर होता कि सरकारी खजाने में क्या आता है जाता है वो ये कंट्रोल कर पा रहे हैं, तो that raises other kind of questions, right? So it is very clearly a question that it is a monthly allowance, and इसमें बुरा, जैसा आपने कहा, इसमें बुरा मानने वाली कौन सी बात है? It's not as if someone is giving money or immediately that person is a sold out agent, या इससे ये पता चलता है कि गांधी जी was a sold agent of the British. ऐसा किसी ने नहीं बोला. It is just a fact to bring to light that there were almost all prisoners, जहाँ पे the regulation 3 of 1818 which came about first in the Bengal presidency, और उसके बाद कई और presidencies में भी ये शुरू हुआ था, like Bombay Regulations 25 of 1827. This was in force in several British presidencies, and it only dealt with the issue of preventive detention, either in prison or in restricted detention in house arrest or whatever, where your liberties are being curtailed. तो ऐसे हालात में जब आपके जो the freedom of moving around, freedom of employment, all that is being restricted, to ensure कि आपका परिवार चले, आपका जो है खानदान बिना किसी प्रॉब्लम के जाए, तो British government was giving allowances to all prisoners, and they were called state prisoners, whether they were in jail or they were in detention. On the similar lines, so the idea was to bring to light the fact that this whole issue of allowances, which were given either as a lump sum allowance to somebody or there were various categories to arrive at that quantum. There was no fixed amount कि किस राजबंदी को कितना आप जो है अलाउंस देंगे, तो उसका कैलकुलेशन हर एक के लिए अलग अलग होता था. व्हाट वाज द सोशियो इकोनॉमिक बैकग्राउंड ऑफ दैट पर्सन, उनका फैमिली कितना बड़ा था, कितने बच्चे थे, ऑल दोज थिंग्स, उनका एंसेस्ट्रल प्रॉपर्टी अगर ऑलरेडी था या नहीं था, क्या वो जब्त किया गया था, उसके हिसाब से कितना मुआवजा उनके लिए कैलकुलेट किया जाना चाहिए, क्लोथ्स के लिए कितना, खाने पे कितना है पर पर्सन, ये सारे जो गणित है करके सरकार एक अमाउंट सैंक्शन करती थी. एंड दैट इज व्हाट वुड गो इवन फॉर गांधी जी in 1930 when the civil disobedience movement was going. उनको 100 रुपए प्रति माह अलाउंस देने की बात हुई थी. Now that letter where it is alleged that he refused it. अब आप कौन अंग्रेजी समझे वो देखना. एक चीज आप देखिए उसमें, he in the letter he says there are certain special privileges being offered to me by the government. Books and newspapers I do not want through this government. Newspapers of I would send for these if permitted. कुछ Bombay Chronicle, Times of India वगैरह वगैरह. The government have suggested ₹100 as monthly allowance. I hope I shall need nothing near it. वो बोलते हैं I hope I shall need nothing near it. उतना ज्यादा मुझे चाहिए, ऐसा मुझे I hope ऐसी नौबत नहीं आए. I know that my food is a very costly affair. It grieves me, but it has become a physical necessity with me. मेरा जो खाने के अरेंजमेंट्स हैं वो काफी कॉस्टली है, इससे मुझे बहुत दुख हो रहा है, और मैं आशा करता हूं कि इतना मुझ पे व्यय करने की जरूरत ना पड़े. ये मेरे लिए एक फिजिकल नेसेसिटी बन गई है जिसका मुझे बहुत दुख है. इसमें कहाँ पे ये लिखा गया है कि ही इज रिफ्यूजिंग द प्रिविलेजेस, he doesn't want the books and the newspapers, but about the money he says उतना नहीं, but whatever, let us hope that it doesn't come up to 100, maybe 70, 80, 90, कहीं भी आए. I know because of the kind of food I eat, it becomes very costly, और उसका मुझे दुख है, पर क्या करें, this is my मजबूरी. I hope the government understands. That is the sum and substance of this letter, which is thrown around as if अरे उन्होंने तो reject कर दिया. अगर उन्होंने reject कर दिया होता, ये letter जो है to Major Doyle, it is dated May 10th, 1930. Now the letter that I shared was dated June 1930, and subsequently June, July 1930 में the correspondences are going on between government of Bombay and government of Delhi, government of India. So by then, if it had come on record that the prisoner M.K. Gandhi has refused the allowance, that would have been on the government record, and there would be no further discussion on that.
I have a question, Vikram. It is common sense. If ये जो मेजर डॉयल को लिखा हुआ जो चिट्ठी है वो 1930 का है, अगर 1930 में गांधी जी ने रिफ्यूज कर दिया अलाउंस लेना, तो 1932 में without discussing this problem that the prisoner has refused, as you said, the prisoner has refused to take the allowance, 1932 में फिर से सैंक्शन कर रहे 100 रुपए. एंड इससे भी बड़ी बात ये है, which while going through some files of 1943-44 vintage about security prisoners, जब आगा खान पैलेस में गांधी जी imprisoned है, अगर 100 रुपए इन लोगों को बहुत ज्यादा लग रहा है कि गांधी जी के स्टेटस के खिलाफ है, एंड it goes against his saintly image, then they are in for a shock, because in 1943 the allowance was increased to, believe it or not, rupees 450 rupees. In the next year, the allowance was increased by a further rupees 100 to rupees 550. Does it even stand logic कि जो prisoner ने refuse कर दिया पैसा लेने से, allowance लेने से, उनका 100 रुपए तो छोड़िए, उस 100 रुपए को इंक्रीज करके 550 रुपए तक ले जा रहे हैं.
तो सवाल आप दोनों से, गांधी जी ने कभी इनको जब रखा था आगा खान पैलेस के अंदर, गांधी जी ने कभी रिफ्यूज किया कि मुझे पैलेस में मत रखो, मुझे जेल में रखो? कहीं आपने कुछ डॉक्यूमेंट देखा?
Not that I know of. I have never heard of
पैलेस में रखना, पैलेस में रखा पूरा, उनका एंट्रूज उनके साथ में था, उनकी
बिल्कुल.
कस्तूरबा गांधी वहां थी, महादेव देसाई की वहां डेथ हुई है, कस्तूरबा भी वहां मरी है, और वो बच्ची भी वहां पे थी. तो कभी उन्होंने क्या रिफ्यूज किया कि मुझे आप पैलेस में मत रखो? बाकी सब लोग को तो उन्होंने जेलों में रखा, मारा पीटा, टॉर्चर किया, इनफैक्ट बहुत डिमांड उठी थी उसके बाद में कि जिन लोगों ने, उन पर गांधी ने भी मेंशन किया और डिस्क्राइब किया कि टॉर्चर कैसे ये लोग करा करते थे।
ये 1932 में जब गांधी जी को और सरदार पटेल को 100 रुपए पर महीना मिल रहा है, वहीं पे सुभाष बोस को मिल रहा है ₹38 पर मंथ। तो ये डिस्पैरिटी भी था, ये सबको सेम अमाउंट मिलता था ऐसा नहीं। अच्छा,
सारे
मजे
लोग
की बात ये है कि सम कांग्रेस पार्टी सपोर्टर, सम जर्नलिस्ट, देयर इज नो डर्थ ऑफ these intellectuals, but especially after the BJ Yatra, is somebody posted a photo saying that so many thousand crores have been spent on Modi's foreign travels. Does that mean that Modi has been given the money? I mean, what kind of comparison is that? Modi is the prime minister of a free country. It's budgetary allocation of a free country. I mean, is comparing the prime minister with a state prisoner in a colonial government, and then one person does this kind of comparison, another person says no no, गांधी जी को पैसा नहीं मिलता था, वो वापस दे दिया था, लौटा दिया था। तीसरा बंदे ने बोला कि गांधी जी को मिला तो क्या हुआ, सावरकर को, गांधी जी को सिर्फ अलाउंस मिलता था, सावरकर को मिलता था स्टाइपेंड। विक्रम, आई वुड लाइक यू टू एड्रेस दिस, ये स्टाइपेंड वाला चक्कर क्या है?
पेंशन था, स्टाइपेंड था,
इट इज द
पेंशन,
सेम
स्टाइपेंड?
नहीं,
हाँ।
अलाउंस ही था ये। अलाउंस लाइक एक चंद्रचूड़ आपको मैंने भेजा था कि देयर वाज वन लेटर डेटेड 8 September 1924. This is again between the Home Secretary of Government of India and Government of Bengal, जहाँ पे there is this revolutionary Upendranath Banerjee. So he was also
हाँ.
released from jail and he was kept in house arrest. He was kept under detention, very similar to what Savarkar was kept in Ratnagiri. तो उनके बारे में भी there is this whole discussion saying, you know, अभी उनका total we had kept it to about 100 rupees per month in 1923. Now the family has increased. He has got one more child. So obviously he was staying at home with his wife at that time. तो एक और बच्चा उनको हो गया है, तो इसलिए खर्चे ज्यादा बढ़ गए हैं, तो हमें उनका 100 रुपए प्रति माह से 145 पर मंथ वी नीड टू इंक्रीज। तो ऐसा कुछ करस्पॉन्डेंस है अबाउट उपेंद्रनाथ बैनर्जी। सो इट इज एज आई सेड अर्लियर कि या तो यू आर पुट इन जेल या यू आर अंडर प्रिवेंटिव कस्टडी, यू आर अंडर हाउस अरेस्ट, जहां आपका जो है योर दिस इज नहीं, ये दूसरा वाला एक और, ये भूपति मजूमदार, इसका भी अगर आप देखें,
दिस इज आल्सो रुपीस 145 increased by rupees 100 to rupees 145.
हाँ,
this is 1924.
yes. दूसरा जो
Okay.
चिट्ठी है, इसमें अगर आप देखें तो इसमें ये उपेंद्रनाथ जी के बारे में है डिस्कशन। On further receipt himself and his wife, the question of his family allowances was examined. Inquiries were made.
This one. This is
The
Upendranath Banerjee.
son has been admitted. His wife has given birth to third child. We have to spend money on medical treatment. So this, that. So essay, this is, so obviously he was staying with his family at that time. So it was not necessarily for just people who were in jail, but also those who had curbs on their freedom, either to earn anything or to move about and carry on employment. उनके लिए कुछ allowance was to be given. So when it came to Savarkar, as you know, he was released from cellular jail and from the prisons in India in 1924, and there were those two conditions put कि 5 साल आप राजनीति में कोई भाग नहीं लेंगे और फिर यू आर गोइंग टू बी नजरबंद करके आपको रखेंगे रत्नागिरी डिस्ट्रिक्ट में। उसके बाहर अगर आपको कहीं जाना है तो गवर्नमेंट के परमिशन से ही आप जा सकते हैं। और तब तक उनके सारे जो डिग्रीज थे वो छीन लिए गए उनसे। He had done a barrister's degree in law from London. That was taken away from him. His graduation degree from Ferguson College in Pune, that had been taken. So on paper, he was just a metric pass. तो आय के कोई साधन नहीं थे। वो कृत्रिम रूप से अगर कोई जर्नलिस्टिक काम अगर वो करते anonymously, तो that was all the time under surveillance. All his books would be scanned कि ये क्या लिख रहे हैं, क्या नाटक लिख रहे हैं, क्या लेख लिख रहे हैं, हर चीज को देख देख के there were lots of inquiries sent कि this is anti against the government, this is causing tension between Hindus and Muslims, तो इसके बारे में आप show cause notice were sent to him, And in fact, in 1925, 1 year after he gets released, he writes on 25th of January 1925 to the Bombay High Court saying, I'm a bona fide lawyer. I have trained as a lawyer. So can I practice law as an advocate in the High Court in the capacity of a barrister? And 3 months later, in April 1925, he received a terse response from the Bombay High Court that the lordships have rejected your petition. So obviously there was
No reason was given.
no reason given at all. So so he was not allowed to practice. He was not he had no degrees, so he could not get a decent job. He could not work anyway because the government had restrictions. In such a scenario, how does a person, जैसे उपेंद्र नाथ जी के तीसरा बच्चा हो गया है तो उसके लिए ज्यादा पैसा अगर देना है, तो Savarkar family was also growing by then. His wife was there, his elder brother, younger brother was the only earning member, Narayan Rao, who had a small clinic, and he also had a wife. So it was a large family. एक आदमी के आमदनी से it could not survive. तो ऐसे में he wrote these letters in 1924-25 to the government saying बंगाल के प्रिजनर्स को उसी टाइम पे जो उनके समकालीन जो सेलुलर जेल में बंद थे उनको somewhere between 100 to 120 130 rupees per month they were getting allowances for similar reasons. उनके भी restrictions on working, restrictions on movement, तो उनको इतने मिल रहे हैं. तो I also need something for the sustenance of my family because I have no other sources of livelihood. तो इस 1924 में जब ये भेजा गया, that was rejected continuously, and it was in 1929 पहले जब उनका 5 साल का condition, the first condition lapsed, and it came for a review. And when it came for a review, the government said, we cannot trust this man because he is linked with the underground revolutionary movement, so we will extend the detention for another 2 years. So जब extension happened, that was when they began to consider, acha, we are now extending his detention, so he becomes a state prisoner in that capacity. So, and he's been asking, and we've been giving it to other people right from 1920s to Bengal revolutionaries and others. तो इसको क्या हमें देना चाहिए? And there's a lot of letter correspondences between the district magistrates of Ratnagiri and Nasik and the police commissioner of Bombay and the government of Bombay. So there was a report that was sought from the DMs of Ratnagiri and Nashik and the police commissioner to say, can you give an estimate of how much is his family expenses? What's his socio-economic background? Because though they came from a zamindari ancestry, when he and his elder brother were incarcerated in cellular jail, his entire property, including the utensils in the house, were taken away by the government. They had nothing. And when the two brothers were away in jail, their respective wives literally were begging on the streets to earn a living, and most of the society had excommunicated them, saying ये तो criminals की बीवियां हैं. So at such a time, so they said, give an estimate ki what are the monthly expenses. So the DM of Ratnagiri then said, considering उनका भी परिवार जो है बढ़ रहा है, they had children by then, so it is good to put it at 150 rupees per month. So then the Home Secretary of Bombay reduced that further to from 150 to half, to 75 rupees per month. Finally, when that letter goes to the governor of Bombay, he reduced 75 further to 60 rupees per month. And this started being given to Savarkar from 1st of August 1929, when the extension of the detention continued. And it didn't go on for the rest of the British Raj. It was only till the time he was released from that preventive detention, which is 10th of May 1937. So about 8 years was what this allowance per month was being given to him, only because, and that too. So out of 13 years that he spent in Ratnagiri, only 8 years of that he got 60 rupees per month, whereas some of his contemporaries were getting in Bengal 100, 120, 130 rupees per month. I think the larger picture, I think what we need to convey is that taking allowances did not make anybody a traitor, or not taking allowance made anyone a great patriot.